Thank you for joining us today. My name is Evelyn Knight, and this is the Childcare Business Coach Podcast. I have some information that all of you want to hear today. I am with Jay Whitney from Childcare Brokers. Jay actually specializes in SBA loans. So he has the information that we have all been looking for, we've been searching for right now. So normally I don't start my podcast episodes straight recording from an interview, but this time, because I know everybody wants this information, I'm just going to record our conversation for you guys so everybody can get the information we're all dying to know right now on how we get that PPP loan information and the disaster relief loan. Jay has the answers we've been looking for. So Jay, I know before I started recording, we were talking a little bit about what you do. And I know this is our second interview, but I haven't published our first yet since the world changed since between the first time that you and I spoke. So do you want to tell my audience a little bit about your company and what you do?
Okay. Childcare Brokers, we are a firm that specializes in the financial or business aspects of childcare centers in both in financing, whether it's getting an SBA loan or refinancing a childcare center, and helping childcare centers with the business sale or business acquisition process.
Great. And so today, I know everybody who is listening to this is going to want to know about what is out there for the COVID-19 PPP. The Paycheck Protection Program is what everybody is. It's the hot topic today. So can you give me an overview, a little bit about what we were talking about before I started recording about the webinar you were in between the SBA and the lenders? Just let my audience know the information that you found.
Okay. Yes. So I was recently in a webinar just for SBA lenders. We were discussing this, and one of the things that I found out, because they put out a question to all the SBA lenders as, are you going to participate in the Payroll Protection Program? A third of them said, no, we're not interested in this. And the reason was because the lenders are only going to get a 1% interest rate, which it's not enough for them.
Right. So basically, they're just taking a lot of their reserve funds, and if they're lending out that money for just 1%, the return just isn't great enough for them.
That is correct.
Okay. That actually makes sense. And then the other thing that we were talking about that I know I've been getting a lot of questions on is you were telling me that you have spoken to a CPA who specializes in taxes, right? And can you tell me, my audience, a little bit about what you were telling me there also?
Well, a lot of the questions are going to be on, yes, my payroll. I know it's for my payroll, but what's included in my payroll? Is my payroll as the owner included? And really, it's treated differently depending on the type of corporation that the person has. For an S corporation or a C corporation, just the owner's W-2 wages are included. For a sole proprietorship or a LLC, then the entire profits of the corporation is included and counted as payroll, because that, when it's reported on, say, a Schedule C of the owner's tax return, the owner pays the self-employment tax, that's 15.3%. So if there is that 15.3% charge tax on your income, then it is counted as payroll and is included. The other thing is, of course, it is limited to $100,000 per person. But the one thing that I found interesting is that it's just included for the wages portion, in that if there are retirement contributions in the corporation, that can exceed the 100,000 also.
Oh, it can. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So I was wondering about that because when I was reading and filling out the paperwork, I was wondering if that when I was asking about that, if that was an excess to or deducted to. So that is actually an excess to. That's good to know. And what about, I noticed too in the application, it asked about state taxes. Is that also in addition to the 100,000?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So the state taxes is generally going to be the state unemployment tax.
Okay. Good to know.
It does not include the federal unemployment tax.
Does not include federal, but the state. Okay. Okay, good to know. So the other thing too, I know, maybe you can help my listeners figure out how would they calculate the total amount of loan their centers can get?
Okay, let me give you an example. You would have all the salaries and wage, sick time, add all that together for all the employees, not to exceed $100,000 per employee. Add that all together. Add the group insurance costs, add for local taxes, the state unemployment tax, and add that all up for the year. Now, it is a 1-year period. Depending on the lender, they're interpreting it different ways. Some are interpreting it to be, that they want the 2019 data. Some will say, up until, the first, including the first 2 months of this year, but not including the first 2 months of last year. Okay. So it may include giving the payroll information, in a lot of details for each and every payroll, cycle. But you take that and for the year period, find the monthly average and then multiply it by 2.5. So in essence, 10 weeks. And that is the maximum amount. It is up to a maximum of 10 million, but probably few childcare centers will have that.
Right, right. And so then that's how they're figuring, and they're basically giving us, the loan is for, what is it, like 2 months worth of operation from what I understand? Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. And then, so that is the total amount that is the loan, and then it is used for the 8 weeks, the 2 months after you get the loan. And for that 8-week period. And that can be used for payroll, rent, utilities, and interest on the mortgage. Okay. Now, the CPA that I consulted with earlier did say that if the person has a home child care center, that interest doesn't count.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But all the other things would count. Still,
for a home child care center, they still count the other stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. And so one thing I didn't realize either. So the period starts 2 months after they get the loan. I know a lot of owners are worried. And like for me in my position as an owner of a center, I have already had to lay off employees. So a lot of us were thinking we're already disqualified for the forgiveness because we've already, but if it starts afterwards, that actually does still put us in the running.
Yes. And and I believe there was a recent change made in the last day or two where it was changed from the 2 weeks once the PPP loan is approved to the 2 months. Excuse me, the 2 months after it's approved, and it was changed to 2 months after the loan was dispersed.
Oh, that is fantastic.
I believe that was just a recent change. I I'm going to have to confirm that before,
No
of course, I submit these PP loans to my lenders.
Okay. And on that, does that mean that we have 2 months to bring our staff back?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
But it does look at how much you have brought.
Okay, right.
For example, if you have, say, 20 staff members normally during the historically, and you have less than that now during this 8-week period, then it reduces the amount that is forgiven. Now you still get the loan,
right?
But let's just say, for example purposes, you had 20 and you only brought back 16 or 20% less. Then 20% of your loan is not forgiven.
Okay.
The other 80% is forgiven, but that 20% you will have to pay it back.
Okay.
And the payback, there's no payback during the first 6 months. Then it starts. You can ask for a 12-month deferment.
Wow.
But then it is paid back by the end of the second year of when the loan is issued.
Okay. Okay. And again, that starts after the loan is either approved or funded. We're not 100% sure on that yet, right? That's when that 2-month period starts. Okay. That's correct. Much better than what I thought it was. So that makes me happy as an owner myself. So do all childcare centers qualify, or what do we need to qualify?
Basically, they all qualify in that, it could be a for-profit corporation. It could be a nonprofit corporation. They qualify also. For childcare centers that were not in existence last year, the PPP loan is probably not the best way to get compensated. If the childcare center closed down, there is, I believe there's there's expanded federal unemployment assistance for those, $600 a week.
Okay.
But basically, if you were in business and had employees, or even if you were just one person working out of their home, taking care of 6 kids, that would qualify.
That is amazing. That's awesome. And going back to the newer centers, would they still qualify for maybe the SBA Disaster Relief Loan instead of the PPP?
Yes, there is. They would qualify for that, and if they have already gotten the disaster relief, in essence, what's happening is they're putting that amount into and adding it to this PPP loan as an additional amount. But if they just stay with that, then they could just do that. And the paperwork is all through the SBA. It's not through banks. Okay. Interest rate is much higher. So.
Okay, right.
As of right now, they can't do both.
Cannot do both. Okay.
Except for the $10,000.
Now, speaking of the $10,000, the $10,000 does get absorbed into one of the two, right? Whichever one.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. That's something I know I've seen a lot of questions on, that if you get that $10,000, it does get absorbed in. Okay. And is there collateral or a personal guarantee on either one of these?
For the PPP loan, no, there's nothing.
Wow.
There's no collateral at all. There's no personal guarantee.
Wow.
That makes these things fantastic.
Right. And I can see why that makes the banks a little bit nervous at only a 1% interest rate, the risk, but it is 100% FDIC. So I can see though that how that could cause a problem, why a lot of banks don't want to touch these. Because without collateral
Right.
and 1%, they're really putting themselves out there for that. Even though the government is backing it, it's still risky.
And their concern is, let's just say that they don't know when they would get that, if they give someone $100,000, $200,000 loan, it hasn't been established when they will get that $200,000 back. Is it going to be only, even if within 2 months, the person shows that they have gotten the entire amount forgiven?
Right. The banks don't know when they're getting the payback. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Now,
Okay.
for the disaster loan, yes, there is the personal guarantees there, and the SBA has their normal collateral requirement.
Okay. So with the SBA's disaster relief loan, that is going to be normal, more like a normal SBA loan. And on those two loans, are there credit checks on both? Are they looking at credit? I know from what I've read, the PPP is no credit check, no nothing. But what about is that correct?
That is correct.
It is correct. Okay. And what about the SBA disaster relief?
I'm not an expert on the disaster relief because that is 100% through the SBA, and
And not banks. Okay.
apply through the SBA website, and SBA government employees handle everything.
Okay.
So I'm not an expert on that.
That makes sense. Okay. But the PPP is no credit. That is just crazy to me. Do you know what the turnaround time, or is there a turnaround time out there yet on the PPP loan?
The lenders that I'm working with, they don't know. My goal is to work with just the lenders that are wanting to move fast on this and do a lot of applications, and they see the benefit.
Right.
I'm hoping that people, banks that are anxious about doing this and helping, will work faster than the ones that, like that third that, we really don't want to do this unless we're for.
Right. I absolutely agree. So what if somebody has already applied with their personal bank and their bank is one that isn't too thrilled about doing this? Can they contact you and also apply with one of the banks that you're using? Or once we apply, are we stuck with the first application we put in?
No, you're not stuck with the first application. You can only get one loan, a PPP loan. So you would not get one at your bank and one elsewhere. But if a child care center owner kind of determines that their bank is not really pushing it, they don't know exactly what to do, they don't know the details. There is a limited amount of cash. There's $349 billion, which sounds like a lot of money, but if every single small business is going to go after that, it's probably not.
Right.
So it is a first come, first serve program.
Right.
And personally, I would not want to go with the bank that is going to be dragging their feet. I would be wanting to go with a bank that is going to try to get these out as soon as possible, so that child care center gets the money fast.
I totally agree. I would prefer doing a more aggressive. I might actually have to get with you after this interview because my bank is one that definitely is indicating this isn't something they want to be doing. I totally agree. We want a bank that's going to be more aggressive about it. We want to be in first. And how do we go about using your services to get to these lenders that are willing and ready to take our applications?
My website is www.childcarebrokers. In my website, I will have in the financing tab an area just for the payroll protection program where it has lots of information. And if a child care center owner were to put down their basic information, center name, email, and so on, what I will do is I will set up a Dropbox account, a secured Dropbox portal just for that one child care center. And then they can put their application and all the documents in that Dropbox portal. And then that, the lender would have access to that. So it makes it a very, a good process where that's right. Where all the files are. It's not like exchanging emails where things could get lost.
Right. And it'll just quicken the process. So what kind of documentation should we have ready?
It's going to be the payroll tax filings with the IRS. One, the 940s, and there's going to be information that shows information by employee. There's going to be information on, in essence, every single payroll period during that year. Now, depending on the lender, it will, and it could be that we just have last year's year-end report, and then a report for the first 2 months of this year, and then another report for the first 2 months of last year, and then we can see exactly what it is. But there's that, the health insurance, the premiums, the actual copies of the invoices, monthly invoices, articles of incorporation, because you have to show to the lender that you are in business prior to this thing happening.
Okay.
Color copy of the owner's driver's license. And then for the owners, to prove the owner's compensation, especially on the sole or LLC, it will be the Schedule C or the tax return showing the profits for last year.
Okay. So to be safe, if we do a year's worth of our 940s and 941s, like a detailed report with employees and their payroll, and our 2019 like Schedule C, that would be a good idea. Of course, our business license information too.
Yes. Okay. And for my website, I haven't made this live yet, but I will within by the end of day tomorrow.
Okay.
As to everything that is needed, because it may be that the lenders don't start accepting for several days, but or it could be tomorrow.
Right.
But at least the child care center owner can pull everything together documentation-wise. There's even an application for the payroll protection program that the SBA put out on Friday, and they've already said that we're going to change it.
Right. That's just great.
So that it may not make sense to actually fill out the SBA application. When I get a complete application, I will put that on my website. I may put up and label it as preliminary just so people can actually look at it and see what it is.
And get started, right.
Yes. but I will have everything up on my website by the end of tomorrow.
Okay. Applying over the weekend to Funding Today, do you think that's pretty not realistic if they haven't even finalized the application yet?
I think I've heard of one lender who is doing that, taking applications, but most lenders are just saying, we don't have the information. And
Right.
they're kind of scratching their head and trying to figure out how someone could be doing this.
Right. Okay.
The key, in that, to give you an example, before independent contractors, the previous form had that independent contractors were included in the payroll protection plan, in that the business owner would collect money for that as part of the loan. Right now, that's out, in that each individual who gets a 1099 will have to do their own payroll protection plan application or do the unemployment.
Oh, right.
Maybe there's if there is a child care center owner that paid, in quote, staff through 1099s, that's not included.
Right.
And that was
So would you suggest for the owners, I know there's a lot of really scared child care center owners. I was chatting with someone earlier this morning who is telling me they can't make it through this month, and they're scared of how long it's going to take to process this loan. Would you suggest that they go on with I know the SBA website has the disaster relief loan, and at least apply for the $10,000 for now, just to get that $10,000 funding as soon as possible? Or would you suggest they wait for the PPP information?
If it's a question of they should 100% go for the $10,000.
Okay, because that can absorb into the PPP, right? It doesn't disqualify them.
Right.
Okay, so I do have a couple last questions, Jay, and I'm going to take us back to the PPP and maintaining our payroll. So I know that we have to maintain 75% of the payroll hours. Are they looking at total hours, or are they looking at it by employee?
They're looking at total hours. They are looking at it total hours, because sometimes you have employees that may go from, they may leave the company. So.
Right. And that's exactly what my fear is as an employer. I have some employees that are actually really afraid to work right now, and we are open. And I don't want to force them to work if they're afraid to. And then I also, on the other hand, have employees that have been volunteering to do overtime. So if I do increase them and give them overtime, but don't bring, then I'll still be covered because it's the total hours. Is that correct? Or are they looking at total dollar amount?
They are looking at dollar amount.
Okay.
Yeah, they are looking at dollar amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I actually even have substitutes coming in right now just to keep, I have a couple employees that are in the high risk demographic. So for them, I'd rather employ a substitute. So that I'm still covered then, right? If I have so even though I'm not bringing that specific employee back, and really they don't want to. So that was actually one of my fears as an employer, that I can't force them to come back if they don't want to. So that they're okay with us using substitutes or doing the overtime. That all still works.
Yes, but
Okay.
if you're using overtime, then you have to look at how that will affect your full-time equivalents.
Right. It's because
so if it reduces your full-time improvement in equivalence, it will reduce your forgiven amount also. So
and
there's two different ways.
When you say full-time equivalent, we're looking at the number of employees, right?
Yes.
Full-time employees. So we have to maintain 75% of that too.
Oh, for the full-time equivalents, there's no 75%. In that, even if you had 20 employees, now you had 19. That's a 5% reduction. of the loan is not forgiven, then you will owe that 5%.
Okay. So, that makes sense. So it's only if I keep 20 employees, I have to have the 25 full-time employees. And
yes.
Okay, that makes sense. But their hours have to stay at 75% of what they were working before all of this started.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so if you replaced one employee with two part-time, that's still one full-time equivalent.
Okay.
If a full-time employee would be counted as one full-time equivalent, two part-time could be, half each or adding up to one.
Okay,
so
it does. Okay,
that's how the government is. That's how we'll look at it.
Well, that's good to know.
How the government will look at it.
That is really good to know, because I know for me, I've been nervous about my staff that isn't willing to come back yet until everything's clear. And I do have a pool of substitutes that are willing to come in that are usually like, there's so many college students right now who've been displaced. They're not in school. And so those are the ones I've been targeting as substitutes, because they're usually within a pretty safe. I know they're saying there's really no safe demographic, but they're in a safer demographic. So, and they're willing to work right now. So that actually does make me feel better, knowing that if one of my staff members doesn't want to come back, I don't have to force them. That does actually make it a lot better.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jay. This has been so incredibly helpful. And I think you've answered a lot of the questions that I know we've been seeing come in. I've been getting a lot of these questions and I just don't know what to say. So I will add your website and contact information into my show notes. So for those of you listening and you need to find that information, you can find it in the show notes. And then as of tomorrow, which is April 7th, were you saying tomorrow evening you'll have it posted?
Yes, I'll have it tomorrow evening.
So by April 8th, they should definitely be able to go in there and start sending you information. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any other way?
That is correct.
Would you like me to include like your email address also, so that anybody with questions can email you?
Yes. Email address, jwhitney@childcarebrokers.com. And one of the things that a lot of childcare center owners, business owners, have questions in how to do it. And a lot of the banks, they're just taking online applications. Their staff is not trained on this, so it's hard to get answers. So I'm going to be talking to people saying, okay, you are a sub-S corporation. This is what you need to do.
Right. But it's great that we can have, so you'll be there to guide everybody. That is fantastic.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that is, yes. I will definitely be getting a hold of you then.
I will be reviewing the information in the Dropbox portals to see if it's complete, see if anything's potentially missing, and talking to the child care center owners to say, what about this, and that?
Okay.
That way, it will help them make sure that everything's done correctly.
Sounds good. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jay. So, and again, for those of you listening, I will have all that information in the show notes. Contact Jay. I think he's going to be a fantastic resource for us. And I'm going to wrap this up. So everybody have a wonderful rest of your day. And I hope this podcast episode helps to reassure you and make you feel a little bit better.